So what you're looking at here, this is the preliminary results of a soil composition test. Um, I've got just a couple handfuls here of backyard soil. I live in Maryland, so it's kind of a red clay soil. That's what it looks and feels like. Um, Actually, it's brownish clay. According to the survey, the website data that they've taken from surveys, we have a silty, what they call a silt loam. So a loam soil contains sand, silt, and clay. And it's a silty loam because it has a little bit heavier in the silt. At least that's what the regional average is. So we're going to find out what my backyard has, or at least the one area where I took the sample from. I didn't do a multiple sample site. I just took one single sample here. It's a proof of concept. So the goal of this project is to find out the different percentages of sand. These are both sand here, silt, which is finer than sand, and clay, which is the finest. So we have sand, silt, and clay. You can ignore the jar there. It's from a different sample. So the way that we get these different parts broken down like this is to take our bulk sample, and again I took maybe 2 handfuls, and I put it in a kitchen sieve, one of those wire mesh sieve strainers, and this material here is what did not pass the sieve. This is coarse sand, and I think the bigger pieces would count for gravel by the ASTM definitions. This here is the fine sand, so you can see it sort of clumpy like sand. It's firm and compact. You can hear the gritty. It feels gritty. It sounds gritty. That's fine sand. Here's the silt. The silt is, they call it suspended load, so it tends to hang out in water and form a kind of soupy, like a slurry. And it's very smooth to the touch. It feels smooth. It doesn't feel gritty like the fine sand. It would feel gritty, however, between your teeth, which you can try. You can put a little bit between your teeth, and it does feel gritty. The clay here is the finest of the 3. So clay is finer than silt, and it also has a different chemical structure. It tends to form into flat sheet-like structures, and that's what gives clay its unique properties. So it's pretty easy. Again, what I did is I put the whole sample. So I put the raw dirt into the sieve, and if you break up the clumps with your fingers, it helps if you mix a little bit of soap in there. I think warm water is better than cold water. This has been my experience. And you break it up real good, and you kind of work it through the sieve. And again, this is what did not pass the sieve. Together with, there was some plant material like leaves, sticks, which you can pick out from the gravel and sand. The next step is to remove the fine sand from the silt clay mixture. And this fine sand here, even though it's fine, will separate out from water quickly. So if you mix this with water, within about 2 or 3 seconds, the sand will come to the bottom, even this fine sand. So if you do your mixing carefully, you can pour off the suspended part, which contains the silt and the clay, and you always leave some of the silt behind in the sand here. But if you do several washes, you can remove virtually all of the silt and clay. This is a pretty clean sand. I guess we'd call it a washed sand. If I were to mix this up with water, it would be clear. The water on the top would be clear. So there's not much silt here. The silt and the clay, those are harder to separate from each other and from the water. So I just have to, you can see standing water just there. I'm gonna have to boil or bake this to remove that water. That's the final step before we can get the dry weights. but separate, even getting the clay, even getting the clay and the silt separate from each other is hard. You have to do the clay hangs in the water for a long time, so you have to give it like a day. You can also pour off the water that's left after the silt separates out into a stack, in the same way that you can pour off the silt and clay mixture from the sand. So you do this multi-stage, multi-step rinsing or separation, gravity separation, and that's how you get these different parts. Yeah, what to say? There's a lot of tips I could give you, but I think if you want to do a little test like this, go for it. Feel free to post questions if you have them in the comments, and I try to get to them. So anyway, next step is to bake it. Maybe I'll post the final dry weights of the different parts and let you know what my final soil composition is. Take care.